Doctor Who fans, and welcome to my review of Planet of the Daleks, or Planet of the Daleks, if you're from America. Planet of the Daleks. This is the fourth serial of Doctor Who Season 10, which is Pertwee's fourth season, and it is his second encounter with the Daleks. Well, third if you want to include Frontier in Space. So, Planet of the Daleks, and it is the 68th Doctor Who story, written by Terry Nation, produced by Barry Letts, and directed by David Maloney. So, again, before I begin, I just want to give a shout out to Nicholas Payne, who very kindly lent me the DVD for this story. So, Nick, thank you very much, I appreciate that. Okay, so, the plot of this story is essentially that the TARDIS arrives on Spiridon, an inhospitable planet where the vegetation is hungry and extremely dangerous. The Doctor has been badly hurt and has fallen into a coma, so it's up to his concerned assistant Jo to leave the safety of the TARDIS to find help. She soon discovers a jungle containing invisible creatures and that the planet is hiding a terrible secret about the Doctor's oldest enemy, the Daleks. Ooh, so yeah, very spooky, very spooky blurb there. Okay, Planet of the Daleks. Excellent, excellent story. I really enjoyed this one. It has a couple of minor pacing issues in the middle, and I would say I didn't particularly like the look of the Smilodons, the big purple rug-looking creatures. I'll go into more about that later. But other than that, this is a really great story, and a much better Dalek story for Pertwee than the previous one he did, Day of the Daleks, though I did enjoy Day of the Daleks. This story is just brilliant. It is very creative in what it does. I love the fact that it's set in a jungle, and that proves to be very intense. The set looks fantastic. It looks amazing. I mean, you can kind of tell by this point that it is a studio, but still, they've dressed it well enough for the time for it to look very convincing. And I like the start of the story, how we see Jo having to kind of take more of a leadership role, and she's taking a forward role here because the Doctor's injured. Obviously, this story was meant to be kind of a second half of the previous story, Frontier in Space. Though I mean, they're not really, but they sort of are. I mean, this story is a direct continuation of Frontier in Space, because the Doctor was shot at the end of the previous story by the Master, and now he's injured at the beginning of this story. Although the stories themselves are both very different, and this it does tell its own story. And I like the idea of the Daleks here. I think they're really cool. The fact that they want to master invisibility, it makes them that much more threatening. And the reveal of the Dalek at the end of the first part is very genuinely creepy. Even though you know it's going to happen. I mean, the story's called Planet of the Daleks, so you know the Daleks are going to be in it. But the way they did it was very clever, very creative. I also liked seeing Jo go through her stages in the story where she has to she has to help the Doctor, and then she gets infected, and she's using this recorder to record everything she says, like to backlog, so in case the Doctor in case she gets lost, or in case the Doctor wakes up, and we see her hand covered in complete gunk. Ugh, I mean, it's disgusting. This kind of fungicidal shit basically, which goes all over her arm. And then the Smilodon, known as Wester, I believe, treats her. Although at the time he's invisible, we don't really see him until later on in the story in his full form. But I like that, and I like Katy Manning's performance. She gives one of her best performances, probably her best performance so far, actually. I mean, well, I say that, but then she's going to be leaving in the next story, so she's not got many more performances to show. But I liked her in this story. And for most of the story, her and the Doctor are actually separated. He wakes up and he meets the crew that have the space crew that have crash landed. Taran, Weber, Kodal, Rebeck, yeah, that's it. They are they are really good characters. Particularly the men, Taran and Weber, who I think they get into a bit of a conflict at times. I think it's Taran and Weber. If I'm wrong, then do correct me. But there is a moment, I think it's in part 4, after they've escaped there's this ice tunnel that they go through. They've been chased by the Daleks, and they escape through the ice tunnel. And then they're on this kind of it looks like a kind of rock. It looks like a kind of like a stone cave that they're inside, and they have a bit of a fight, and then. Yeah, so that's good. I mean, they're great characters, and there's a lot of tension because I think Weber believes, or is it Taran? I can't remember who's who, but one of them believes that the other one is not a good leader because he's scared and he's running away because their original leader is dead. Joe finds the original leader dead when she comes into the abandoned ship and into the wreckage. And this story is very intense. I mean, it keeps moving, despite there's a couple of slow moments, but nothing major. Nothing major. I think the fact that this story is less politically heavy than the previous one helps as well. It's more of a tension builder, and I like that. I mean, the more kind of action-adventure part of the story comes in the second half, when the Doctor and the crew have to kind of disguise themselves as Smilodons and go in and get the Daleks, and then they kind of... they have to go and blow the Daleks up, which is kind of interesting. I mean, how many times have we tried to kill the Daleks? I mean, you can never fully kill them. This is a show about time travel, remember? So, yeah, but this is one of the best supporting casts of the show ever. Rebek as well, she's good. I mean, she's the only sort of female. I would have liked another female crew member. That would have been nice, just to balance out the numbers. She's good, and I like her moments, and especially when she says goodbye to the Doctor at the end. That was very sweet. Kodal is the other one. He unfortunately dies in the story. I think he's the one that gets shot by the Dalek. And again, if I'm wrong, correct me. And this is the first time I've seen it, but I believe he is the one that dies. And the Dalek voices, Michael Wisher, who also will be Davros later on, is voicing the Daleks here, and he does a great job. And I like the design of the Daleks, the kind of the very dark black design, and that works. There's like a Dalek leader who's black and yellow. That's really cool. I mean, we get to see some more ridiculous Dalek designs in the Matt Smith era with the Power Ranger Daleks, as a lot of people said. And as far as the acting goes, it's pretty perfect. I mean, there's no one that gives a bad performance. Wester kind of has this weird voice. He kind of whispers like this. Joe, I will treat your arm with this red liquid like this. I mean, he doesn't say that, but the voice is very reminiscent of that. So, I don't really understand why he chose to speak like that, but whatever. As for the rest of the cast, they're great. John Pertwee as the Doctor, as always, is fantastic. He never puts a foot wrong. He is a little bit humorless in this episode. I mean, he's not the most humorous Doctor, but that's okay. This story is much more serious. There is light relief, of course, and I think one of the guys does take a liking to Joe, and he asks Joe to go to Skaro with him because the people, they're actually from Skaro. Yeah, no, she politely declines, and she says, "I'm sorry, I'm very fond of you, but I have another world to go to. I just don't..." She doesn't see him in the same way, but she gives him a kiss goodbye, and it's all good. But the Doctor says, you can change your mind, Joe, if you want to. You can change your mind. And she says, no, it's fine. I want to go back to Earth. Yeah, so she's going back to Earth. So that's nice. And Katy Manning, again, she's great as Joe. She's come such a long way since the beginning of her time. I'll talk more about her kind of... Obviously, next time her exit happens, so we will talk about her full character arc in the next review. But as for what she has to do in this story, she's very good. She plays a lot of fear, but she at the same time, there's also a sense of her... her courage is getting out now. She's becoming less fearful. She's becoming braver, I think, actually, as time has gone on. And even when she's kind of infected, she's still kind of, learning how to deal with it. And she's trying to kind of not be so, fearful. And I like that. I like that very much. It is a 6-parter, so it is quite long. So it does drag on a couple of moments, but nothing major. I also like the set of the Daleks' lair. That's really cool. And there's a intense moment when the Doctor has to grab the bomb and he has to go down into the crowd of Daleks and kind of shimmy his way through and get the bomb. Really good stuff. And I think Terry Nation's script is impressive. I like his script here, and he does a good job at keeping up the tension. Same with director David Maloney. His direction is beautiful. He directs it beautifully. And all of the character moments are very good in this story. And it's interesting to see the start of the story when the Doctor is kind of helpless. He goes into a coma. You think, oh shit. Like, and then it's up to Joe to kind of do everything. And I like that. I like that they changed it up a bit. You know, had the Doctor kind of not always... you know, there are times when he's going to be injured and he's going to be helpless, so his companions have to pick up the slack. So, yeah, I really liked watching this story, and again, the set was fantastic. The music is good. I like the ending of the story as well. There's a bit of sweetness to the ending. The climax of the story is good. And I loved the tension throughout. And I think what helps is that we do have those characters that help us create that tension. It's not my favourite Pertwee story. It's not like my favourite Doctor Who story of all time. I mean, I know it's my friend Alan Kalo's favourite Doctor Who story. And good for you, man. It's a great story. For me, I think I slightly prefer Inferno to this. That story for me was just a little bit more groundbreaking. But this one was still very, very good. Definitely an instant classic. I mean, there's no other way you can say it. And the whole idea of it is great. The whole invisibility thing, which is really cool. Again, my only kind of nitpick is some of the slow pacing at points, and some of the Smilodons. I think the design looks silly. It doesn't fit. Like, I mean, color wise, it reminds me of you know, sort of a purple version of Sully from Monsters Inc. I know Monsters Inc. came years after this, but still, it just got me. It just kind of amused me. It was amusing, but it didn't fit with the tone of the story. I would have preferred a design that was slightly less colourful. I know they're not bad. They're not bad creatures, but just from the visual standpoint, it doesn't look right. It doesn't fit. And I know they have to wear disguises, and that's that's fine. But it just seemed out of place. That's just my nitpick. So overall, I am going to give Planet of the Daleks a 10 out of 10. Yeah, I was toying with a 9, but I thought, you know what, I think I can give it a 10. I think it's worthy enough to be a 10. It is a definite classic, and probably, well, at the moment, my favourite John Pertwee Dalek story. So there you go. Okay, so, next time on Doctor Who Review, we move on to the finale of Season 10, which is also Jo's final story. Oh, it's going to be sad to see her go. Which will be The Green Death, next time on Doctor Who Review. And I will talk about Katy Manning and her character, obviously, when we talk about Jo's exit next time. But it's been an interesting journey, I'll say. You know, nearly pretty much 3 seasons, so longer than Liz. And then we have 1 more season of Pertwee, so we're almost there, folks. I've only got 6 more Pertwee reviews left. 6 more Pertwee reviews, and then we're on to the Big Daddy, Tom Baker. Ooh, but we won't talk about that just yet. Let's finish the Pertwee era first. So, again, thanks to Nicholas Payne for lending me the DVD, and until next time, thank you all for watching, and as always, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. See ya.